Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power Tea Talk. From the Cathedral of Neyland Stadium to the fanatical landscape of college sports, we're breaking down the plays, the players, and the pride of the Southland. I'm Daniel, your host, here with my comrade and co-host, Zach. Grab your orange and white. Let's run into the checkerboards. This is Power Tea Talk. Zach, it's time to talk about the offense. I'm very excited to talk about the offense. I've been excited to talk about the offense. Let's talk about the offense.
Yeah, this is the fun part, I think, of even when you were a little kid, like you get your Athlon, magazine, and you're looking through the depth chart and everything, and you're talking offense, like, hey, who's going to pop? And you never know. Like, you think about Tennessee's 4 biggest playmakers last year, and all of them were like, what the hell are we going to do preseason at the playmaker spot? And it turned out everything went great, at least for the running backs and wide receivers. So it's super fun. Like this group, non-quarterback, and we'll get there, I think might be Heupel's best a collection of talent when you combine the trenches and the skill positions.
The hemming and hawing that we've had to do about the defense, not just the bad taste left in our mouth, but no scheme and we don't know what it's going to look like and this and that. It's not a negative thing, but we just have more knowledge of what this is going to look like, and we know that there's a chance it looks really good. This is, I think I said it last year, you're allowed to be excited about stuff in college football, contrary to some popular opinion. This is something to be excited about overall. And not from the guaranteed to be good perspective, but from the, oh my gosh, there's so many things that are going to be fun to see perspective, scheme, and then specific players. There are really 2 purposes of this specific episode. One is to place dudes on the field. Who are we going to see out there? When do we expect to see this person versus that person? Especially if we have an indication of what we would like to see. That is, I think, probably for me, the most important part of it is just who are the guys? Who are the Jimmies and Joes? And we know how important that is. The second part is, how do they fit into this scheme? What do we think can be the ceiling of some of these units? And then kind of placing what we think could pop. And so a lot of it is name here, name here, name here. But then it's let's get excited about the names that warrant excitement. And we'll talk about that as we go to give a pattern of what this is going to look like. We're going to talk about the trenches first. That is a personal bias of mine, and I'm happy to have that bias. I think it's just too important not to talk about first. We're going to talk about the pass catchers second. We're going to talk about the backfield third. That includes the quarterback and the backs. And then we are going to kind of try to place those units in how we think they sit in the SEC towards the end. And so we'll do a little bit of wrap-up thoughts as we finish up after we review position by position. We're starting with the trenches. There are big names here with big hype, both in terms of they've already performed and they're getting some recognition for it, like a Mo, and they have performed a little bit and people think it's going to go crazy from here, like a Big Dave. Place the guys on the line for us, and then we'll talk about what they mean for this scheme.
Yeah, so there's one spot that could be up for grabs. I'm going to go ahead and list what I think are the guaranteed starters. We got David Sanders on the left side. We know I'll go more in depth on him. But left guard, Wendell Moe, who was very good last year. Center, Sam Pendleton, who was better in September than he was in October, November. We'll get there. And then right tackle, I feel Ori Williams, the transfer from LSU, has locked that spot up. And then right guard is a competition between Donovan Haslam, who's a 5th-year senior from West Virginia, and then Jesse Perry, who's kind of Tennessee's swingman. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the starting group.
I think I want to start on the left side, just strength on strength in terms of the places we can do that. We lost Lance Hurd to the transfer portal. this is not just SEC fan cope here. I look at this depth chart right now. I look at Sanders at left tackle. I don't care anymore. I just don't. We knew it was the right decision. It doesn't mean that the right side isn't a question mark. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed. It was frustrating to see her to make that progress and then bounce to another program. But the left side with Sanders and Mo, two guys who could both be all conference, that is, I'm not going to ever complain if our left tackle and left guard look like that.
I mean, that left side's just absolutely not only massive in terms of size, but also massive in terms of knowing Tennessee's going to have what could be the best left side in the SEC. When you really dig in deep to it, we saw what Sanders did last year, playing a new position at right tackle and really not only holding his own, Oklahoma game notwithstanding, like having really good moments, right? Like he had a lot of great blocks. The Twitter film guys loved him, saw his potential, and that was with a shoulder injury for 6 weeks. Where
I was going to say that was with a pretty much like a slow intermittent start to the season for a young guy.
That happened 2 days before the season started. Remember, he hurt himself during the week of Syracuse. So you move that to the left side where he's more natural. It seems like left and right has not mattered. We've kind of seen the NFL as well. Like, hey, if you can block, you can block anywhere. But having Sanders on the left tackle, I believe a future first round NFL draft pick at that spot is paramount. I think that's going to change the offense in a good way. And then you had Mo, who was really good last year, maybe even better than we expected. It's really hard to judge offensive guards in college, at least off like just my naked eye. Like I can know if a tackle is doing good or not. It's really hard to know if a guard is, especially with some counters that Tennessee runs and wide sweeps and all that stuff. But Mo was excellent. He had a great year. He's on multiple watch lists. He's fifth year guy. He's going to be drafted in the NFL. I don't think he's a first or second round pick, but it definitely could be a day 3 guy that maybe somebody hopes to plug and play. You start there, like that's an awesome building block, knowing you have a 5-star number 1 overall recruit left tackle who showed he can play as a freshman and got bigger and stronger this offseason, and then a 5th-year left guard who's got I think he's over 30 starts for his career now. He might be pushing 40. That can do it all. He can pull, he can double, he can get out to the second level. So really good building block right there.
Really good building block for something that is just like, it's like the bread and butter schematically. I mean, again, we're going to talk about all the skill position players, but if you can run the ball, and Heupel can usually run the ball, then that carries this stuff. That makes everything go. And you've got a left side that can really, really do it. I want to, and we could continue to talk about Mo a little bit here too. Going from the left side to just the interior overall, you laid him out as Mo, then Pendleton, and then maybe Haslam, maybe Perry. Maybe Perry's the swing guy. It kind of depends. Do you have a preference there? The thing that I'll say about that right guard spot, we can talk about the interior overall, but the right guard spot is, I kind of thought of Haslam in the portal as like we need bodies because we thought we were going to lose people, and it's always nice to have more. You can never have too many good offensive linemen, whatever. I don't think I realized that like it's kind of a one crack year with him. And so the fact that he's like progressing and has that experience and might play is less surprising now that I think about it that way, instead of just thinking about it as a portal addition.
Yeah, Haslam's really interesting. He played 3 years at Austin Peay. He didn't play much his first year, really until his 3rd year. He didn't become a full-time starter at Austin Peay. And he played left tackle. And then he goes to West Virginia. He didn't start the first half of the year, and then he ended up starting at guard for them the second half and really graded out well as a run blocker. And also, I think he didn't allow a sack last year. If he did, it was 1. Either way, like really good numbers in quality snaps. It seemed like they were bringing him in as depth, but then Ellerby talked about he's the most powerful lineman he's had, which was kind of eye-opening. To me, if Haslam can come in and win that job, and then you have Perry who can play, I think, 4 positions. I think he could play anywhere but center. And he could probably handle center if like you absolutely had to. As your swing 6, I think that would be awesome. Because they could really use a road grader at that position at right guard. Perry is good. He did really well last year, especially when he was expected to start at right guard the entire year.
Mm.
And they moved to the right tackle the week of Syracuse games. He more than held his own. But if he can be used as a swing guy, and that's your sixth offensive lineman, that's a fantastic sixth offensive lineman to have.
Would that be close to the best unit we've had on the line? And this is partially just my memory escaping, like my memory is failing me on the pieces each year. And it's not to, I'm not trying to overhype, but just like Perry as a true swing, that feels, and he's more experienced than sometimes that swing that we're throwing around in there. That feels pretty darn good.
That 2022 offensive line was excellent with Wright, Mays, and Carvin.
And
as
Wright
the
is
build.
is one of those dudes.
Yes, I mean, he just became the highest paid right tackle in NFL history. Weirdly about that team is they were switching guys at left tackle. I think 3 guys ended up playing, and I know Mincy and I know Mincy played. I think God, who's the guy who threw up? Man, I can't remember.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So they were switching guys at the left tackle spot, that entire year. But this group, to me, I think's got a chance to be the best offensive line that Heupel's had.
We'll get to the right tackle spot in a second, and we'll get to kind of the overall evaluation of the center position. Has Heupel ever, that you can remember, or do you think he would ever go with like a heavy or overload set and move Perry somewhere or move Sanders somewhere and overload a side and introduce that wrinkle? Or do you think that's just not part of this offense?
He's done it, but only short yardage goal line packages. I don't think you're going to see Jesse Perry getting 10 snaps a game, if that's what you're asking. I don't see that happening.
I think that's totally fair. We can talk about Pendleton again. It's like, it's solid, but maybe the weak link of the line, but not a terrible weak link. The biggest question mark is Ori Williams at right tackle, another big body. This is the kind of thing they like to have on the offensive line. Your evaluation of him and his maybe potential, but then whether you think he can step into that role right away.
It was Jeremiah Crawford, by the way.
Crawford.
I was getting it. I think he can. I want to see it, of course, but it would help too. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of go off a little tangent here. Pendleton just did not play well the second half of the year. Do you remember he had snap issues?
Yes.
Like we talked about that. If they can get him to where he was in like September and early October, I think that's going to strengthen the line. The center's not like vital in this offense, but it is important to do that. And whether it's Perry at right guard or Mo at left guard, they're going to have to be in shape, 1, and then 2, they're going to have to get to the second level. So if Pendleton can, I thought his footwork just he didn't have the explosion that I was hoping to see. I don't think he's bad. I think he's perfectly fine, at the center spot. And he hadn't truly been a center. Like that was his first true year at center. He was a swing interior lineman. So even if it's Perry, then I think they go a little more athletic. Like I think that's good. But I would love to see Haslam as that road grader with Mo. And then you have Pendleton. Yeah. Like you just think about, and then Ori Williams is 6'8", 330. Like you just think about what this one game could potentially be. We know all 5 can pass protect. Like all of the pass protect numbers for and include Perry for all 6 are good by PFF. Everyone grades them well. It's this potential to have this awesome road grading run game that Tennessee's never truly had. When you actually look at it, I know in 24 they did. That felt like more like Samson vision, agility, scheme than just true like run it down their throats and make them quit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say overall, the one concern about the line that I have and a unit that I'm optimistic about, but the one concern I have is, let's say we get into a situation where it's Mo and Haslam, and they're experienced. They're good. It's not a question of whether they're quality players. But Mo was a little bit susceptible on blitzes last year. Like he's
Mhm.
just more of a road grader than he is a pure like pass protecting guard. And then Haslam, we have very positive sack numbers and reports from him, but he's a big dude. And so I wonder if over the course of a game, Pendleton being the weak link and then those guards being the weak link from a pass pro perspective, if we got a couple of times on interior blitzes or kind of double mug pressure or looks, that's a very niche concern. Like obviously a real concern, and there's probably a defensive coordinator out there licking their chops in some way or another. It's a heck of a concern to have about an offensive line. We're not concerned about an overall spot or a side or interior or exterior. It is just like a very specific scheme thing that I think, despite the strengths, could get us a little bit. Other than that, you have, what is it? Senior, junior, senior, and then the least experienced guy is a sophomore, but it's David Sanders.
He's the most talented one, right?
Yeah.
I think people might be looking on the outside and say, if they're not Tennessee fans, say, well, I'd be worried about right tackle. But even if Williams doesn't work out, like Perry can slot in, I know it'll be fine. My biggest concern is like if Sanders goes down, because Perry's never played left tackle, and it's probably going to be Gabriel Osenda, who is a freshman, a very highly touted freshman, not as touted as Sanders, but very, very good, and wouldn't surprise me if he starts somewhere on this offensive line next year. And it was funny. There was a camp video of him, and he is significantly bigger than Sanders, which is saying something because Sanders
That's
is
crazy.
6'6", 315. The depth is good as well. I don't know, we haven't even talked about Umarov.
Yeah, experience as well.
Experience. Hopefully he's a little stronger than what he saw last year, but he can pass protect pretty well in the interior. Backup center, it's like Nick Moore's had a good camp. We'll see. Like Gage Ginther is like the second. I don't know. Like hopefully it's not a concern, but LRB has shown like does a good job getting a floor. Like Tennessee's never had a bad offensive line in Heupel's career at Tennessee. It's can they really reach their full potential, and this might be where we see Derek Owings really kick in with the new strength and conditioning. If we can get 5-10% stronger, 5 and 10% better footwork because we're a little bit leaner, more athletic, that could unlock some things with the line.
Yeah, I don't want to act like there's absolutely no way it could go wrong, but this is one of those things that I am comfortable saying if we're sitting here in November talking about massive offensive line issues, barring injury or multiple injuries, if we're just like, gosh, it's just not working, I will just have to shrug my shoulders a little bit. It's not to say seasons can't go awry, but I don't think this season is going to go awry from a talent or protection standpoint. I think Heupel's really good at working with less good offensive lines, and he happens to have a really, really good one going into this season.
Mm-hmm. We'll get into where this will rank SEC wise. Out of all the positions on the team, and even with wide receiver, because technically that third spot could be interesting, this is my least concerned group. I just know they're going to be above average at minimum, and we move on. Like, I'd love to see them be great. I'd love to say this was a top 10 unit after the year, but I know LRB, Heupel, the scheme, Sanders, Mo, this is at least above average at minimum, and more than likely will be very good.
I want to move on to pass catchers. This is an exciting group.
Mm-hmm.
We have my summary of it. We have standout guys who have already performed. We have standout potential, and like, can you please just reach that ceiling? And then we have young dudes who are like budding with promise, and I think multiple of them, maybe one really special one, but multiple of them. we will talk about wide receivers first, and then we'll move to tight ends. I think the pass catcher group as a whole, we'll kind of talk about at the end, but I think we can start with the wide receiver group. Same pattern. Place some guys for us, and then we'll talk about the reasons to be excited.
So we know Matthews will be one of the outside wide receivers. We know Staley will be the slot wide receiver. There's an open competition for the third spot to replace Brazel. Davis is going to be tight end one, although he is not participating in fall camp, and I'm starting to get slightly concerned. If he doesn't play against Furman, I won't. Like, if he's practicing but doesn't play against Furman, I won't be concerned. That would be my take on it. And then Deshaun Brain will be the backup. That other wide receiver spot, it's a three-way competition between TK Keys. Are we going to call him TK? I guess we will. TK Keys.
We'll probably end up just calling him Keys.
Probably. Rodarius Jackson and Travis Smith. Keys, we know, top 10 overall recruit. Some places have number one wide receiver in the country. Adidas paid him very, very, very pretty sum of money to come to Tennessee for us. Smith was very highly touted. I don't think he was quite a 4-star, but I think he's like a consensus top 60 prospect. And then Jackson had some moments last year that looked interesting and has consistently drawn praise from the coaching staff over the last couple camps. This group could be the best wide receiver group we've had since 2010. Maybe 12. 12 if the Rick didn't get kicked off. let's phrase that.
Yes.
When they had Denarius Moore, Gerald Jones, Hunter and Rogers as freshmen, then Zach Rogers was like the fifth wide receiver on that team, which is kind of crazy. So you talk about Matthew and Staley with the years they had last year. They weren't even the number one option. It was Brazel. They both had over 800 yards, and Matthews left yards on the field.
Oh my gosh, did he?
Drops and a couple touchdowns. So like you think about what those two can do, what the year Staley had, and they're very diverse. They can go over the middle, they can go deep, the route tree got expanded. And I'd say Matthews probably has a little bit more raw talent. Staley has been more consistent. I think that's probably something you would agree with. But if Keys is as good as he has kind of shown, especially with the physicality he has brought, he has been really impressive.
Keys is the type of dude that pops, like from a recruiting ranking standpoint, from looking the part standpoint. I have no idea how to place what his impact is going to be early, and I don't mean that as a cop out, but I mean that as like we have a guy I'm thinking of Rodarius as an example, who got on the field pretty early last year, like a fairly highly touted recruit, got on the field pretty early, pretty big, pretty physical, made some tough catches, got a little dinged up. I love the idea of Keys making an impact, taking the top off. I love when we have receiver potential like that. I also just wouldn't be surprised if Rodarius has more catches than him 4 games in, and not even in a bad way. But
it also should be noted real quick, Heupel has not played freshman wide receivers.
No, I think that's just worth remembering. Like, it is nowhere near a knock on Keys. And I think if you do see him early, then it really might just show that he's one of those fellas. But like the Smith and Rodarius contributions last year were very rare, very scant. It wasn't feed them and we still have really reliable outside receivers and a slot receiver in ways that he might just be biding his time a little bit, even if he is electric. I think that, again, to reiterate, if we do see him make an impact, that is where this goes from excitement to good luck in a big way. When we have confidence in the protection, confidence in the run game, and then you have 2 kind of inarguably talented wide receivers, and then that freshman and that the feel of that, especially the feel of that in Neyland, will be kind of something to behold. To pause the hype on that for a second, we'll come back to it because I think it's important to come back to the couple of times we saw Matthews fall asleep last year. A little bit on downfield passing, or receiving in this case. And then on downfield blocking as well, the physicality and size of Darius and Smith, if Matthews and Staley are just like the key pass catchers, and then you have younger, bought in receivers who are physical, who can block and block on screens and block downfield and block in the run game, I would not be surprised at all to see Smith and Jackson with a major role in this offense, and in ways we really like, because physicality and blocking outside can take this offense from explosive to letting Staley and Matthews live up to every bit of the potential they have when you get the ball in their hands.
Yeah, I think this group overall, I feel really good about. And Matthews has so much potential. And you could just see there's I would even say NFL first round pick. He's such a fluid athlete. Like everything looks easy for him. He's had a really good camp too so far. And they talked about how he's becoming more of a hands catcher than a body catcher. He's really worked on that aspect of his game. I don't want to say Staley has hit a ceiling. I don't think that's fair, but I feel like he's reached a good amount of what his talent can be, and that's very good. I want that to be reiterated. I'm just not worried about him. It's like with Bishop. Like I just know what he is, and that's a good thing, right? Brazel, we should probably mention, was so important last year. And I think because Keys is a 5-star, some people have just said, oh, Keys will fit in to Brazel's spot. They are missing something with there. But the hope is that Staley and Matthews take leaps in their game to cover Brazel, and then that third guy can come in and be solid. And I think that's kind of the goal here. I also am curious if the opportunities are there compared to last year. This is going to be a run-heavy team, in my opinion. I think they have 3 backs they trust. I think, assuming Brandon's the quarterback, they're going to run him, and they're going to run 2 tight end sets. Brain's getting a lot of looks at first-team tight end with Davis out. So I don't know if that third guy is going to catch 40 balls like we saw with Matthews and Staley last year. It might be more 20. Okay. But the hope is Brayley and Matthews will be even featured more, and that will improve the overall ceiling on this group.
I completely understand what you are saying about Staley, but I still think he has room to grow. As in, I get what you're saying in the sense that it's like he is like Mr. Reliable, not flat like Mr. Flash.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me, I mean, I'm not trying to throw this on as a comp, but he reminds me of like what like St. Brown does for the Lions, of like he's going to catch everything. He's underneath. We know what we got, and we're going to give him the ball.
His consistency almost hurts him because it's not spectacular, but it's spectacular production, just not spectacular the way he does it.
But I think that like, and I'm being a little generous here, but like 70 catches as the kind of tied for second option from a freshman. And then like, it'd be one thing if he was kind of like catching the ball over the middle and kind of falling down as he catches every single time and just seeing like just racking up. He has some rack a catch to him. He's a strong kid. He has some physicality to him. I'm not saying he's going to be suddenly like an inside and outside threat. I think the role is where the consistency comes from, and he's really good at it. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if he pops a couple more. The vacuum of Brazel's production goes to him a little bit. I think he could be the best player on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and so I just think there's a little bit more room for him to be a star. I think there's also the more likely scenario is that those 2 wide receivers together are a star, as in they are what we need at that position, and then the pops we get from the younger guys are typical of Heupel, just pops we get from the younger guys. It's a third down wide formation crosser and he gets hit over the middle, and that could be Jackson, it could be Smith, it could be Keys. The reason I was going to circle back to Keys no matter what is so much of our production from the pass catchers last year came from Brazel just jumping on dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that is something that was essential to the offense? I mean, of course you want explosive plays. Of course you want 70-yard touchdowns. Of course you want, a guy that physical to go and do his thing. One, do you think that is a need for this offense, or do you think there are other ways to take the top off the defense? Two, if that is a need, do you think that is what Keys is like as a receiver, or is he more like an all-around type of receiver?
Seems like Keys is going to be a little bit more of an all-round receiver. I think maybe as a freshman, that is how he's used. And then as he grows into the role and maybe Matthews or Staley go to the NFL, then that route tree expands. The one thing I would say is just thinking it felt like Matthews got open twice a game for 50 yards. And just other than like they just didn't hit him in the big games like they did in the meaningless games, but they just didn't in the big ones. I'm not overly concerned. Like I know the Georgia game, it was like Brazel had to use the 6'5" frame to get two of those for touchdowns, and that's important. But I think it was a little overstated. Like I don't remember Brazel high pointing the ball a ton. Like he did.
He was kind of all over the place, but he had a few.
But I mean, he just
ones,
had such good straight line speed as well, and with the scheme and whatnot. Like I think Matthews can replace some of that just with how fast he is. And Smith is 6'3", 6'4". So even if Keys isn't quite ready, like maybe they use that to high point a little bit. And again, I think there's going to be less chuck it down. Someone's going to be down there that Joey did last year. I don't think you're going to quite see that as much with the freshman quarterback, whether it's George or Faison. But I'm hoping maybe the route tree diversification that we saw in 25 expands in 26, and we don't have to rely on 45-yard jump balls that are underthrown and hope the 6'5" guy wins.
And he did, but it's going to look different. I think that the overall kind of shift where it's a Matthews and Staley show, and again, I think a lot of people have Keys penciled into that third spot. I actually don't personally, but that third spot, if that's more of like a gritty earn your stripes kind of role, I think the physicality of Smith and Jackson could be game for that. And that's if we're not using a 2 tight end set. So let's shift to the tight ends a little bit. You said you had kind of concerns about Davis. Go ahead.
Before we do that, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. Tennessee's never had two 1,000-yard receivers in the same season. Can they do that this year?
I don't think it'll happen. I think we're going to run the ball a lot.
Makes sense.
I think we'll probably have one. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all if Staley's at like 77 catches, 1,200 yards.
Squirrel Light had over 800 yards with Joe Milton. Anything's possible with this.
That's so true. And again, I would say, if anything, we are being very disciplined in tamping down our excitement about the wide receivers, because we're going to be excited for when the ball gets thrown.
Yes, I agree.
So tight end wise, you expressed kind of concerns about Davis's progression injury wise. Let's hope for the best on that. What do you see in Davis and Brame? And as much as it's probably going to hurt me, compare that to what we got from the tight end position last year.
I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, because I do have legitimate questions about this group, more with the run blocking. Whatever you want to say about Kitzelman and Castles, you got to block in this offense as a tight end.
Pause real quick. That's also why I think Smith and Jackson could find a good role early, because they'll block. Anyway, yes. Go ahead.
You have to run block in this offense as a tight end, because even though we did add more two tight end sets, because the wide receivers are so spread out. Not always, as we saw last year, but usually they are. The tight end and his ability to run block becomes even more important. I like that we are shifting to more dynamicism with that position. The Castle, Kitzelman, there were real frustrations, in my opinion. I don't know if I'll ever forget Heupel for what he was trying to do with Kitzelman in the Alabama play. But I think Davis is, Heupel seems to play seniors more than maybe other coaches, and I just wonder if Davis kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit in that. That was not quite fair to him. I think he's got real talent. That touchdown to Florida was awesome. Like, that, we hadn't seen a tight end do that in a long time. He seems fine as a blocker. I don't think he's a star blocker, and hopefully the strength and conditioning program has improved that. I am excited about Brame. It would be nice for depth purses to have JVD, but that is what it is. They brought in
Didn't
Trent
happen.
Thomas. And Luca Wolf has drawn rave reviews as a freshman from Germany in there. So the group, I'm excited about the potential. I think there's way more dynamic capability with the top two tight ends. And I think, like with the offensive line from 24 to 25, it might be a good thing to remove some of that seniority that was in there.
Yeah.
But because of how vital the run blocking is, I would like to see it from Davis for a couple games before I truly buy in.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'll start here. Like, Kitzelman was greatly preferred in terms of like snaps, and it was clear that we wanted that to work so bad, and I wanted it to work so bad. Even with all of that, even with him being like maybe overplayed and over targeted and like too much a part of the offense, given what his skill set was, Davis still had more yards than him.
That's crazy.
I know. And it just shows that Davis is pretty dynamic, and he made the most of his opportunities. With that said, even if Davis is like, Kitzelman will put his nose in it, he will block. But I do think the overall production of that position could balance out nicely, where it's like you get 15% here, you get 30% more on athleticism. Brame's a big target. He's getting rave reviews at camp. They feel like just classic fall camp reviews. Not that he's about to go all SEC, but
all
also,
against air, by the way. Just remember that's all they get to see. Yeah.
Oh, the 6'6" dude who's athletic, looks good catching the ball. Wow. But the problem with dreaming on Davis, and you dreamed on Davis from a like variety of play calling standpoint at the beginning of last season, and you were right on some of that, especially that Florida touchdown. The problem with dreaming on Davis is Heupel can scheme up whatever. And I actually wish that he would scheme up a little more of those bluff screens with guys like Smith, Jackson, and Davis. Maybe he will. But there are so many moments where if Davis is getting like almost a stilted, stiff play call, it's like, okay, this play call is clever and it's going to Ethan Davis. I would probably just rather the ball go to Staley.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And so it's interesting to see how that balance is. And then again, you go back to last season, and however many targets Kitzelman got, those being divvied out between the three wide receivers we had probably would have been a better use of our talent. And so that there's no reason to be concerned about the tight ends unless there's an injury to Davis, and it's like, okay, we're really just regrouping and seeing who can block here.
What's going to be really fascinating is, because the third wide receiver spot is so wide open, are they going to use more two tight end sets with Davis and Brame without Kitzelman, where they can say, we know Kitz is going to block his ass off in the run game, where we could be a little more creative with Davis in motion, or we can let him go out or whatnot. What might also help is Deshaun Bishop's a really good pass blocker. So with Kitz, some of those third down plays, especially those third mediums, they would just be like, okay, Kitz, you're going to chip someone and then you're going to release to the flat, and the defense is like, we don't care. That's fine. Just let that happen. Where now you might be able to say, okay, Deshaun, you're going to pass block this thing. Davis is going to run real routes, or Brame, whoever it might be. And now you add a little bit more to your passing game, where it just felt like it literally felt like every route for Kitzelman was chip and release. Maybe a little in route, like every once in a while.
Chip, and sometimes not release.
Yeah, sometimes not even release. Exactly. So I want to see what this looks like, and I'm really curious if they stick with as much two tight end sets as they did, it's really interesting how important Brain might actually be to this
Yeah.
offense now that we're
Yeah.
talking it through. It's like, okay, if one of those three wideouts isn't fully trustworthy, and then it's like Desan Brain isn't run blocking like we need him to, or Davis isn't run blocking like we need to, all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have 10 really good offensive players, maybe 9 with the quarterback. Okay, we need to find that other answer.
And I'll say
Because
this.
they're not playing 2 back sets. That's not happening.
No, it is not. And not even close. And the other thing is like, this is very niche, but like some of the most important early things on film that we saw last year were like really clever screen game in quick offense. I'm not saying it's the most exciting thing in the world. It's probably not what I would do like in a spread offense on a video game. But if we feel like we have an advantage in like tempo and the screen game, and we're going to throw the ball to Matthews outside for a screen, you'd rather have someone like Brame or Davis as part of that than a freshman wide receiver who might like blow a block and the play that would have gone 70 yards goes 7. And so there's some advantages to having those tight ends be involved, even if we want the like over the top, as sexy as possible, wide outs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully we get a good dose of both. We'll move to the backfield now.
I would
think
also
we
say
start with the
last thing.
Go ahead.
I am curious if Trent Thomas gets some H-back sets. Because Kitts did that, and he did it really well. So I'm wondering if Trent Thomas, who at South Alabama just did not catch the ball but played a lot because of his blocking, if he might get some of those H-back sets to help offset those, especially in some short
Princeton
yardage
Fant, Jacob Warren kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love that. I love when Heupel does that. I think almost every time he does it, he does a good job with it.
Especially when he puts them in motion.
And so we're on to the backfield. I'm going to save the quarterback conversation because the running back conversation, I think, as of now, warrants coming first. For me, it is the overview. We have talent. We have a lot to learn about the depth at the running back position.
Yeah, so it's going to be Deshaun Bishop as the starter. That's pretty clear cut. And then it's 3 backs that really could be the number 2 guy, depending on what happens. So they brought in Javon Gordon from Tulane, who had a nice freshman year at Tulane, a cousin of Torian Poole, former Tennessee running back from Georgia. They have Dwayne Morris, who seems to have gotten some camp reviews and the positive. Seems like he had a good spring as well. And then Justin Baker, who's got some talent as well. I do have a quick question for you about Deshaun Bishop. What is the ceiling for him? He's clearly an above average SEC back, and I know he bulked up this year. It's kind of hard because Heupel's never had a bad running game. So I'm not ecstatic with Bishop, and I know everyone was just like, can Bishop be the number 2? Like, if he's your number 2 back, you're like, I am thrilled with this scenario, right? It's now the question is, what's the ceiling on him as a number 1 back? Is it Jabari Small or is it Dylan Sampson? That's kind of where I think we are right now.
It's interesting. I was looking at the numbers earlier, and this is not a completely fair comparison, but like yards per carry wise, he sat there right where Sampson sat there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the yards per carry from Sampson, now way more volume from Sampson, and he was facing a pretty loaded box and breaking 6 tackles in the backfield sometimes. And so I'm not saying it's the same story, but it's not that there was a huge drop off in terms of the average production of a carry with Bishop. He continues to surprise me. And so from that perspective, you're framing it as I'd feel really good if he was our number 2, if we had a number 1 that was just like, holy crap, this is a workhorse. And we wanted that. And I include myself in that. We wanted that in the portal. I think I will flip it a little bit and say I'm actually comfortable with him as my number one if the guys behind him are better than the number twos we've had in recent years.
Like, can we get better production than Star Thomas last year?
Yes. Like, I think that we came into last year with like so much like expectation of Star Thomas, and we wanted him to get the ball more. And then, oh, Peyton Lewis is going to fill his role and be this physical back. You know, the back I was most excited about was only Deshaun Bishop. Like, I don't miss Peyton Lewis in that role at all. I think Star Thomas, the carry load was very strange, but he couldn't. I don't know. He never got it going. He couldn't play as consistently as we thought he would. It just didn't fit, maybe. And so now I'm sitting here thinking, I actually have come around to having a lot of faith in Bishop, like workload wise, and getting every yard that's there, and maybe even more than I thought he would, and more yards than are there sometimes. But what does it look like behind him? Because if it's pretty empty behind him, it's going to circle around to being a little frustrated with the run game, but not necessarily with Bishop. That's not where my concern lies.
If I told you Peyton Lewis had 7 touchdowns last year, would you believe me?
I feel like I remember like 2.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought too. It tells me Star Thomas had 7 rushing touchdowns, and I don't believe that either. But anyway,
I don't know if he had 7 carries. Like,
I didn't feel like it at times. I don't know enough about Gordon. Like, how can he read vision holes? Like, what is it? I know he has excellent power. He broke a lot of yards after contact. If you look at the numbers last year as a freshman at Tulane, that was a really good offense. They were not afraid to pound the rock with Summerall as the head coach there. Morris brings a little bit more of that explosiveness. I don't know. I guess this is where I'm curious what happens if Gordon turns out to be fine, right? Like, how much are they going to rely on Bishop? Is he going to get a Dylan Sampson workload? Because one of the beautiful things about Sampson was, although he broke down, he was able to take 25, 26, 27 carries and still go strong. Bishop hasn't shown that yet because Tennessee had a 3-back rotation. They threw the ball a lot last year, and I know Bishop can pass block as well. Like, that's, something that we've seen him do. Can Tennessee, if it's the fourth quarter, he's at 21 carries, can he still 3rd and 4 get you the 4 you need? Or, hey, we need you to set the tone this drive. I'm not saying he doesn't work hard enough or whatever. It's just, that's kind of what I'm looking at. And here's the other thing that I find fascinating about the running group last year. Okay. In terms of success rate, rushing the ball, Tennessee was 4th in the entire country rushing the ball in success rate. However, they were 30th percentile in explosiveness running the ball. That's kind of insane when you actually think about it. With that much success running the ball or like staying on course, but not having really any explosiveness from the run game, they need to create that, which is what Sampson did and what Jalen Wright did. Like, I feel like there's a good happy medium between creating where it felt like Jalen Wright was boom or bust, right? But Deshaun Bishop is just all like, it's fine. Fine's probably harsh, but like staying on schedule. Like, can either Gordon or Morris provide a home run hitter that they could really use with this group? And I don't know, maybe if Brandon's carrying the ball 10 or 12 times a game, he could potentially provide some of that explosiveness if his running ability is as advertised.
Yeah, so I'm looking at like the preseason All SEC teams, and Deshaun Bishop's 3rd team, along with Hollywood Smothers. 2nd team, you have Jaden Ball, Nate Frazier. 1st team, you have Lacey and Ahmad Hardy. I'm not trying to do this thing where it's like, who would you trade Deshaun Bishop for? Like, I don't really enjoy doing that with guys on our squad necessarily. But it's like, does it feel like those other guys on that list are in a totally different tier than Bishop? Is that your concern, or is it just like you're just waiting to see if he is like hard and fast second or third team All SEC, or if it's just that Heupel's really good at designing a run game?
If Hardy was healthy, which I don't know what's going on right now with him after what happened over the summer, I would say Harley's clearly a tier above. And I think Baugh is underrated. Like when I saw him play, I thought he was the only good thing Florida had offensively. So like those two guys, I would be like, yes, give them to me right now over Bishop. But if Bishop's like the fifth best back in the SEC, but Dwayne Morris and Javon Gordon are more than capable. Like if they can give us more than what Star Thomas and Payne Lewis did last year, then I'm willing to live with that.
Yeah, I think that's where I sit too. Is if those guys are kind of, I don't mean this mean, but like if those guys are kind of like neutral zeros, and it's just like we just need to give Bishop a rest and then get him back in there, and he's at this higher volume, so he's a little bit less efficient, and he's not as explosive as Sampson, which I doubt he will be. Then it's like, okay, we got real problems here. Like we have a really, really good offensive line that is not being met with the talent that we wanted it to be met with, which is why we were calling for like a non-efficient portal decision to bring in a back. Like give us somebody, just give us pop everywhere. If someone like Morris suddenly is just a very capable back, doesn't have to be the workload, but just pops when we see him, I think we're going to be okay because it's a Heupel run game and it's a really good offensive line.
That's the other thing. Heupel's always schemed a good run game. I'm not worried about when they go to Arkansas, run the ball with Deshaun Bishop. My concern is more when they go play Texas A&M in November.
Yep. Has it just been kind of figured out, and then you're back to that scenario that we talked about in the state of the program where you're now in a tight scenario, everything is compressed, you have a back that is getting the 4 that are there, but you need the 41 sometimes.
And we saw in the Georgia game, that final drive, there were yards left on the field from Deshaun, and I think Starr had one too, if I'm not mistaken, that it was schemed up perfectly, but they just, not quick enough to the hole, didn't quite read it right, whatever it might have been. So it's fine. And I mean that in a good way. There's fine in a bad way, and there's fine in a good way, right? Like when you say it's fine, it's fine in a good way.
I also think like if he does jump again and progress again, and he somehow finds like a little more explosiveness, and he's very, very hard to tackle, and he has more volume, like he's just a workhorse, he's going to be so fun to watch because he's going to have some space behind this line. We've put it off long enough. I think we have to talk about the quarterback position. I'm excited to talk about the quarterback position. It's not that we have to. I'm excited about it. I want to start here as an easy entree into the conversation around the quarterback position. Last season, thinking still about the run game, last season, quarterback run game was essentially 0. Like it was almost scary when we resorted to that. Do you think there's a path to that being part of the offense this year? Or are you just like, there's too many unanswered questions there?
I think it's going to play a role. I think you're going to see, whether it's George, who has shown some running ability, just doesn't have like the compact size that Brandon has, or Brandon's elite athleticism at that position. I think it's going to be a factor this year that it was not. And I would say even more of a factor in 23 and 24, because for whatever reason, they didn't run Milton. I don't know why. It's like the only thing he did well, and they just didn't do it. And then Nico, they were so concerned about the hits. They pulled it out late when they needed it, but they didn't like to use it frequently.
Yeah, it was more of a like, let's pick our spot once or twice a game than like an integrated part of it.
And it cost them. Like the Arkansas game, it felt like that was there, and they didn't go to it until late. And then last year, they were like, we're not, like,
it's not a consideration.
Joey's got, we'll run 1 to 2 read options a game, we're good to go. The George touchdown, for example. So I think this year it's going to be pretty prominent. I think you're going to see a significant amount of carries from the quarterback, even if it's not like design quarterback power. You're going to see more read speed, inline options than we have seen in the past.
What's your overall take right now on the quarterback position?
So this is where I'm very curious what you think. We know we went after Hoover, Sorsby, and Levitt in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, Levitt was texting Lane Kiffin while he was in Knoxville. Like
let's just place those guys real quick. Hoover's Indiana's quarterback.
Yes.
Sorsby is playing in Russia somewhere, and then Levitt is gonna be the quarterback, I think, in Baton Rouge this year with a ton of pressure on him. And so, like, those guys,
he can throw the ball. Yes,
yeah, like those guys landed in. Again, Sorsby aside, like those guys landed in very high profile spots, and we were, more than making moves at both of them.
Heupel's very good at the media, but he can be honest. I'm very curious if the reason he went after those guys had less to do with his belief in George and Faison and more in the fact that he thinks this offense has a chance. If he had gotten an elite college football quarterback, like I could build a national championship offense with one of those guys. Because the talent around this, I think, is the best it's been when you combine everything. Even with some of the running back concerns, we know Bishop's at least above average. And I think Gordon's going to at least be fine, that they're not going to be net negatives. But with the wide receiver and the offensive line talent, and then maybe some more dynamic play from tight end, I wonder if he thought, if I can get one of those three guys, I can have not win a national title, but have a national title level offense.
I don't know. But here's
or
why
was it
I think
just covering the bases? Like,
those things are so interesting to me, and like I'm just gonna be so interested to see how Hoover plays, and so interested to see how Levitt plays. And I'm not even saying that I think, oh no, they're gonna be bad. That's not what I'm saying. But so your perspective on that? Do you think he was basically saying in his brain, I don't want to have to pause on what this pass game looks like. I want to bring someone in who I can just continue to progress this pass game with, instead of a less experienced or freshman quarterback that really does make me lean on our run game and pause the passing game progression a little bit.
Yeah, because like let's play a game here. Let's take Aiden Childs, who's like, I think, a perfectly average power four quarterback who was in the transfer portal. If he had zero faith in George or Brandon in year one, he could have taken someone like that, right? Like a guy with experience who's got some talent. And Childs is a pretty decent runner. Like he could have gone that route. I just find it fascinating he went after like the top three guys, and then only. And then was when they were not available, he was done. Like they really pushed for Levitt. They had him on campus for a few days. So I just wonder if he thought, if what you're saying is like, I can plug this in with all the success I had with Joey, and I should have a better offensive line. Staley and Matthews are going to get better, and I should be better at the tight end position, at least in pass catching. I can just plug in one of those three guys, and I'm going to have a Heisman contender at that spot. And then I'll figure it out between George and Faison next year. More so than I don't think Faison can handle year one, and I don't think George. And it might be more of an inclination on George. Like maybe he was like, hey, I think Faison can win the job, but I'm not going to know until I get him on campus. If I have to go with George, I'm going to be in trouble. I hope that's not the case, but that could be also part of the thinking. And then maybe he saw Brandon on campus, saw how quickly he's getting the offense, he had a clean bill of health because, he did battle injuries this year, and it was good to move forward. I don't know. It's just a fascinating topic that he went after the top three guys and then didn't go after, and then was like, yep, Brian Stott, come be my third string quarterback. It's just so interesting.
I agree with you. And like it's just something that I don't, because you're right that if it was like, well, I'll say this. You know what's nice? It's nice to be bringing in a potential stud freshman quarterback who wants to play.
Yeah, that is nice, isn't it?
Because like I keep going back to that in my brain. I can't help but go back to it because the last time we did this, we brought in a quarterback who actively did not want to play as a freshman. And for whatever, who knows what the reasons were, I don't know. It's the total opposite now. You have a guy who was already pretty physically ready. You got Owings. He's put on 20 pounds of lean muscle. He's a big kid anyway. He's been in big games in high school, and there's not a single part of him that sounds like, could I just maybe redshirt for a year? Nah, that's not what we're doing here. And so it's very interesting to see now we're in fall camp. He's bigger. He's come in. Maybe he's grasped the offense a little bit. I can see why you're back tracing it that way, where it's like, if I could get the 1, 2, or 3 names, let's do it and microwave this. If not, I don't really see a systematic difference between letting this guy develop and take his lumps and the mid-tier option that I would otherwise be looking at. It's either that or he just struck out on the mid-tier guys, or we weren't willing to pay him much. But that shows that he has a lot of faith in the young guy.
Yeah, and I think too he's going to run the ball like crazy. So I think he felt like, hey, I'm going to run the ball, and I've got enough offensive talent at wide receiver where we're going to be heavy play action, and we're going to run the ball and establish the run, and then we'll work from there. I am more open to what they're doing. Like, to me, we talked about this. Love Joey. Love what he did. I thought he performed better than I thought he would. I think this is a better option than bringing Joey back at 25 years old and trying to sneak your way
hoping
into
it gets a little better
and try and sneak your way into the 12th seed. Like, I'd rather do this. I'd rather set myself up for 2027 with Faison. And everything coming out of camp, national and local, is that it's going to be Faison, even though Heupel's playing it super close to the vest. And I'm pretty confident that if Faison's named the starter, he's gonna be the starter. Like we talked about this last month. There's no dual quarterback. This is not going to happen.
And especially because, like, if he wins the job, there's not something that George does better. As in,
yes, exactly.
It's because he's all around better and probably a little bit better runner too, potentially. We talked about this last November to give us a pat on the back. Like and we also talked about it again when Joey was, going through whatever, like, appeals he was going through. We were like, maybe there's just a freshman kid who's going to come in here and win the job. And we're allowed to be excited about that, even if it's like objectively not the most efficient way to run the offense this season, blah, 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 blah. I think not just for 2027, for 2026, I think it's going to be really fun, even if he's going to take his lumps. With that said, do you think of the quarterback position as a potential positive? And this is not me taking a side one way or the other on this. Do you think he could be better than Joey was last year? That's hard.
I'd be shocked if he put up Joey's raw passing numbers.
Yeah.
That was a lot of yards.
Gosh, that would be impressive.
That would be, you're all of a sudden talking about, and I need to be careful. Like, what are we looking at? Like, are we talking about the next? I'm not going to even invoke the name. Never. Like, where is he going to be?
Joey threw for like 400 yards against like Brent Venables and Kirby Smart. Like, this isn't
exactly. Now, I think the run game could be really interesting, where maybe the total yards are close to what Joey did, and the total
touchdowns
where it's like, hey, over 13 games, he had 29 touchdowns. He had 3,400 total yards, and that would be awesome if he did that. Like, I would be totally happy with that. I think it's going to be a tough schedule to navigate as well. If we had the 2024 schedule, I'd feel a little better, to be blunt. Where you have Florida at home and you have Georgia, and really is your only true tough away game. They played Oklahoma away, but that was not a good Oklahoma team. So like I would feel better, but it's going to be really fascinating to see how it's going to look against Texas. I mean, Georgia Tech week 2 is that place can get loud.
Oh, Georgia, like that is one of those games that, again, national media might be like, this exciting Vols team is going to go down to Atlanta and take care of business. I'll tell you what, if he goes down there and is a factor in winning the game, if we just run the ball like crazy and they can't stop us, whatever. But if he is one of the reasons we go win on the road, especially with like the background woes of Heupel on the road and stuff like that, that is an impressive thing.
Well, and the other thing that Heupel's going to have to manage with if Brandon's the starter is George does not play like Brandon, right?
No.
This is not like, oh God, I can't remember who Pat White's backup was, but you remember when Pat White got hurt and they literally played the exact same way. Like that's not what's going to happen is if they're running 10 to 15 times with Faison. Like that's not, I think, going to be sustainable. So he's going to have to pick his spots. And maybe it's something like, hey, you're not running against Furman. You're not running against Kentucky. You're not running against Arkansas. Like that's not going to happen. We're not calling, those aren't going to be in the playbook. And then it's like, okay, against Alabama, like we're going to call 10 to 12 design to these bad boys. And maybe I'm overrating the mobility a little bit, but he seems to be an excellent athlete for the position. So
he's a big kid too.
And he's big. We just don't know though, right? He got hurt his senior year. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's probably in the back of Josh's mind as well. Like, hey, I've got to protect him also.
Joey was so experienced, and so he came in April and was able to pick things up, and he was slinging the ball over the field. It's kind of a different beast with how experienced Joey was.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, man. If there's something where early on with this offense, Faison is making these skilled players outside play up and hitting shots downfield, and like that would. Once again, it would be so impressive from Heupel, and it would be huge credit to Faison as well. But it would just be like, okay, so you took this like more experienced guy who's a little bit limited physically and came in late and he was rocking and rolling. And then you took this true freshman who is really gifted physically, but a true freshman, and his first college snaps on the road at Georgia Tech, he's throwing the ball. Like, I just think it could be very, very impressive. Here's the other comparison I'll make. Do you think his numbers will look better than Nico's numbers did? And I'll give them to you. So Nico had 63% completion. He threw for 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. He ran for 400 yards roughly with 3 touchdowns. So you got 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, some frustrations along the way.
I want to see how the team looks. Like if Deshaun Bishop has 1,500 yards and Gordon and Morris have like 1,000 yards between them and they run for over 2,500 yards and those are Brandon's numbers, then I'm fine with that. I know that's a cop-out answer. I don't want to see 2024 Nico again, if that's what you're asking.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing.
That.
And a big, like, Samson was amazing that year, we know. But the other thing that year is like, I mean, there were massive issues with how Nico understood what to do in this offense. And he was a little bit chicken with his head cut off sometimes, and that was difficult to run this offense that way. But like his top 3 targets were Thornton, a very hurt McCoy, and Squirrel.
A very hurt Squirrel, by the way.
A very hurt Squirrel, a very hurt Brew, and who's like those people are not playing football anymore. And then
Miles
Thornton,
Kitselman at tight end.
And Kitselman at tight end, and then like Thornton, who was very one note. He was an athlete, but he was very one note. Our receivers going into this year look way better than that, pass catcher wise.
That's a great point.
And so, again, I think there's a chance he might feel a little more comfortable than Nico did too. But if he can just take advantage and take what's given and make some clean throws, we could find a couple games with some rhythm. But like you said, there's going to be up and downs.
I've just got to see it. I know that's such a cop-out answer. I don't want to put numbers on it without seeing it. Because, again, if Tennessee's like the best rushing offense in the country, and those are his numbers, and he's protecting the ball, and they're taking a bunch of deep shots, so the completion percentage is a little lower, I'll live with that. I'm cool with that. But if they're trying to throw 30 plus times a game and those are the numbers, I'm not going to be happy. It seems like that's a mistake. So it's one of those where
it's an unknown.
Yeah, it is. Like, I think the quarterback's in a great spot to succeed with what they have. I think this is, if you were going to put a freshman quarterback in the spot, other than having a true NFL starter at running back, I think this is a great spot.
So, barring injury, which I hope this does not happen, how many snaps does George take at Georgia Tech?
0.
And like, again, like that hasn't been officially named. Heupel's never going to do that. But it would be a big surprise at this point if
agree. That's a great way.
But not the starter.
It would be a big surprise. I would say that'd be a good thing because it seems like everyone's leaning towards Brandon. So maybe it's like, oh, wow, George is actually having a really good camp, and his staff made sure to keep that under wraps for whatever reason. But, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. This is the most intrigued I've been about the Tennessee quarterback situation since 14.
Yeah, it's very much something to, I say this a lot, sorry everyone, just enjoy what happens.
It's also the first true quarterback competition since 2017. Like, if you think about it, like Garantano came in 18, 19, 20 after spring as the starter. Milton, like, they had the spring in 21 between Bailey and Hooker. They bring in Milton, and Heupel literally was like, Milton's my starter. 22, Hooker was the starter. 23, Milton was the starter. 24, Nico's the starter. And then, like, they can say they had a quarterback competition. We all know it was Joey. So it's really fascinating. This feels like the first true quarterback competition in Tennessee in a decade. Like, going into fall camp, I guess, would probably be the caveat to that.
I'm excited to see what happens. I want to rank the position groups that we have now. We'll kind of go back up the list. And so let's start with quarterback. The game here is top half, bottom half. You're indicating whether you see them as a top half unit in the SEC or a bottom half unit in the SEC. If it's top half, I'm going to push for a little more detail. If it's bottom half, it's like we're in wait and see mode. So for the quarterback, do you see it as a top half quarterback, not unit, in the SEC, or a bottom half in the SEC?
Fortunately, I got to go with bottom half right now. I just got to see stuff.
I think so too, and there's just some really impressive names. It's you could dream towards like middle of the road top half, but I think as of now you're telling yourself a story if you have them right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 4 SEC quarterbacks that could win the Heisman in some situations, like Gunner, Marcel, Trinidad, and Levitt. Like, all could.
And Arch Manning is not very bad.
And and Arch Manning. So there's like 5 guys, like, if they won the Heisman, would not shock me in any way.
What about running back?
Can I push? Can I be like 8th?
So let's think about it. It's not top 4.
No, it's probably, I'll say top half, like 6 to 8 range. I think Bishop's good enough. I can give him that. Because
the other thing too is, like, we're kind of right now, for me, we're kind of ranking this on the starter. As in, like, we have questions about depth. We want the depth to play up. Texas has like 17 dudes that are really good. But other than that, it's like we're ranking guys based on who that starter, that stalwart back is, not nuance of every bit of depth in the running back room.
If they were bringing back Peyton Lewis and didn't have Javon Gordon, I would say bottom half. I think Gordon's got a high enough ceiling where it pushes that into the 6, 7, 8 range.
What about tight end? It's a hard one to rank.
Yeah, I'll be honest. You're not going to get a lot of tight ends. Like, who's the third tight end for Texas? I don't know.
Well, let me say this. It's like, they're athletic dudes. It's very fun to think about. But, like, I think there are a couple teams, Georgia is the example that comes to mind, that have like very clear impact tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait and see what we have, but we don't have that. Like it's not Lawson Lucky.
Can we group the tight ends into just a pass catcher?
Yeah, we could do pass catchers.
Top half.
Top half has to be, right?
I would say pushing top 4 between Matthews and Staley.
And then like the other ones you have out there, Texas, probably Texas A&M,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're kind of seeing who pops otherwise.
Correct.
And then offensive line,
Top half.
top half, probably top 3.
Definitely top 5.
Yeah, and that's just a
I'd
matter
like
of
to
like
see
you
Ori
just don't
Williams.
know.
I'd like to see Ori Williams like a couple games here just to make sure that right tackle spot won't be an issue. But even then, it's like Jesse Perry fills in. It's like, cool, we're fine. Like
And so that
such a nice thing to have.
it lines up to where like we can have every expectation that we have a top half, top 6 maybe if things go well, unit in the SEC as an overall offense. If the quarterback, I think right now it's like just complete uncertainty. If that really does with the young quarterback end up about middle of the road, we're going to be cooking. We're still going to be scoring some points.
If Josh Hoover was on this team or Brandon Sorsby never opened a FanDuel app, would you say this is the best offense in the SEC?
You'd have to do some convincing that we're better than Texas for me.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
I think that
you also have a great play caller at Texas.
Yeah. And like, I think that Arch, he wanted it. He's been in the spotlight ever since he stepped foot on campus. He's had his nasty, ugly moments, but that dude's pretty good.
He got better. He got way better second half. I still don't know why he has a weird release as a man.
I don't get it either. And like, he's not as, it's an interesting profile overall, but the one thing that he does that makes up for some of it is he's a dog.
Yeah. And he can run. Like he's definitely shown the athleticism.
Yep. And then, I mean, you got LSU is a mess, but probably going to be pretty good. Ole Miss still has 2 just studs. Like,
the only thing with Ole Miss is they don't have Kiffin, even though the offense did well in the playoffs. Like you take away the Kiffin, and then LSU, I think that offensive line could have some problems.
A little nasty
this year. Yeah, exactly. And Georgia's going to have great offense, but then you have like there's Mike Bobo just hanging around in the background where that one game per year is, But if they had Hoover, I was a bigger Hoover fan than a Sorsby fan. I would say if they had Hoover, I'd be willing to say this was a top 2.
It's interesting. I don't know if I would. And I think that's probably just me being unsure on Hoover in general. Because I think just generally skeptical of portal guys, although I think Hoover's going to do well, and I think Levitt has a chance to do well. I think that there would still be some ceiling questions, even with Hoover. Now, it would have been really fun to see. And do you think he's going to be just crushing it at Indiana?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a monster year.
Yeah. I mean, they're very, very talented, really good backs, great defense that's going to get him the ball back. Like, the materials are there.
Yes. Absolutely. And I am, how about this one? Because I know you really like him a lot. What if, I want to say his last name right, what if Mestamaker was here? Yeah, see, I see that brain turning now.
I'll say this.
Yeah, they didn't go after Mestamaker.
No, they didn't. But I would land in a similar to maybe right below place as Hoover, because I think it's more just, this is stupid what I'm about to say. I'm just very excited to see what this unit does.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just hard to wrap my brain around what it would look like with a guy who is extremely talented, but is very tied to a coach in Weston Maker. Like, it's hard to think about what that would look like in a world that doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
No, it's fair. Like I said, I'm happy they went this route than bring in like DJ Lagway. Like I much rather do this than that, or Aiden Childs or whatever. Bringing in a 5th-year group of 5 quarterback that's had some success. It's going to be fascinating if they go 8-4, 9-3. Maybe the defense plays better than we thought. Maybe they just run the ball, but the quarterback doesn't impress, whoever that might be. I'd be very curious how that's going to play out in 27. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but
I have 2 thoughts on that. One is, I don't think there's any way to make an argument that the offense is going to be better than last year's. We talked about that with Joey's production. Like, dude was just putting up some numbers a lot of those games. But it's also very weird to say that a hypo offense with really talented wide receivers and probably a better O-line is going to be worse. And so it'd be nice if we could not take a major step down, even if we feel like we might take a step down because the passing game is going to be a little more on pause. The other thing, so I don't mean to keep going back to Nico. It's just a comparison point. It's not me being a hater. When Nico was transferring, I heard from multiple fans of other teams who know I'm a Tennessee fan, like, okay, I didn't want to say it all year, but
Yeah.
like I wanted to be optimistic, but dude, this was rough. Like every game I watched, it was like a slog. And then we all kind of, partially because we were frustrated, but we all kind of admitted like, yeah, there were some times where he was seeing ghosts a little bit. I think it'll be interesting to compare. This is all hypotheticals. The feeling we have about the quarterback position heading into next year or at the end of this year compared to how we felt about Nico before all the transfer stuff at the end of his season. Because they're different players, different play styles. One is actually potentially playing as a freshman, whereas the other one was baking a little bit longer. But we would have really been having to convince ourselves that it was going to get better if Nico had stuck around.
The other interesting thing that I don't know why the national media always made this, like they always seemed like there were multiple times people be like the true freshman quarterback. I'm like, this guy has been on campus since December of 2022. And they'd be like, oh, the true freshman quarterback, Nico. I'm like, no.
He's like a sophomore and a half almost.
He was here 18 months.
Yeah.
So, and part of the problem was they dumbed down the offense, like in his second year. Like that's not supposed to happen. So even if the offense is dumbed down and it's Brandon from day one and it doesn't look pretty at times, I'm more willing to forgive that than. And yeah, I was talking myself into Nico major
100%, 100%,
2024 or 2025. I want to make that clear, but I'm more willing to be like understanding or make less excuses, or maybe I guess more excuses than I was for Nico. Like where it was like the Georgia game second half. I'm like, we cannot throw the ball. Why? What is going on? I know Kirby's good, but this is ridiculous.
I think there's a very important to acknowledge difference between Nico biding his time and then playing the way he did versus if it is phase on, he is doing this as a true freshman and he has a chance to be a dude. And so I've made that comparison a bunch of times already in this podcast, but I almost think we need to stray away from it because it is not an apt comparison in terms of what we should expect or what they are doing in this offense.
Correct. I am fascinated by this. And it's going to be very interesting what our conversation is after Georgia Tech.
Yes. There's a chance we are really frustrated. There's a chance we're like, let's ride.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Thank y'all for listening. I feel like we could go on and on if we got into more numbers and efficiency and things like that. But luckily, before too long, we're going to have some real stuff to play with. You know, Furman tape is on the horizon. So we need it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it. Went a little long on this one, but I think it was worth having that major quarterback discussion at the end. And look for the defense next week. We're really excited to get that out. So fascinating. We'll maybe go a little more X's and O's with the defense with Jim Knowles as the new coordinator. So appreciate you guys listening and go Vols.